For the last 3 years, the AI industry has told you bigger is better. And some of us would like to still believe that's true. But more parameters, more compute, more expensive. And then a team from China built something just as powerful for a fraction of the cost. The gold rush mentality is dying. And what's replacing it might be the worst or the most important shift in AI since ChatGPT landed.
You're listening to the AI Convergence Podcast, presented by Box AI, where AI, business, and mindset converge.
Welcome to the AI Convergence Podcast, where AI, mindset, and business converge. My name is Matt Aponte.
And I'm Michael DeVue.
And this episode, we are, this is where everything we've talked about this month really comes full circle. The AI landscape is changing very fast. Today, we break down what this means for you, and then we're going to do something different for the deep dive.
Yay.
So let's get into it.
Shall we?
Okay, so let's set the stage here.
Yes.
The AI hype cycle is cooling.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. So TechCrunch published an analysis declaring 2026 the year that AI moves from hype to pragmatism.
Like the plane that takes off. You move from takeoff to cruising altitude.
Yeah. The industry is sobering up.
Yes.
Except in your plane analogy, that's when you can get it.
That's when you start drinking. Actually, I started at the bar before getting on the plane, but I digress.
True story. Well, the narrative, for 3+ years, there's been bigger models, better AI, GPT-3, then to 4, then 5, 5.2, 4.0. Then we went backwards and then forwards. So basically more parameters, more compute, more data centers, more billions of dollars, and more people concerned about the sustainability of it all, which is a valid concern.
Yep.
But then that narrative has really just cracked because, DeepSeek, a Chinese AI lab, released a model that rivals GPT-4's performance at a fraction of the training cost. Now, this isn't breaking news. This has been around for a little while, but it's still worth revisiting and especially talking about since we're going into 2026, because their model is open source and free to use. And what they started, and was around early 2025, was something that we're now going to be getting into. You don't need all these massive language models. As a matter of fact, Meta's Llama models, they're open source and they're increasingly competitive. Mistral in France, Stability AI. So that whole moat of OpenAI and Google that was built with billions of dollars, and it's really now starting to erode.
And when we say free to use, ladies and gentlemen, and humans of all kinds, remember, free to use means they're using you. So you're the cost, you're the product, right? So just remember that.
Yeah. And the focus is beginning to shift now. With a newer model, which we'll get into, it's really from bigger to more useful. Which is why we saw a lot of specialized OpenAI and Anthropic and Google wrappers products coming out that are basically using the API from these different companies because it's a smaller, more focused version that does or communicates with you in the way that you need it to for a specific model.
Yes,
right?
A model trained specifically on customer service, say for instance for HVAC companies, will outperform a GPT-4 at specific tasks, even though GPT-4 technically is the bigger model, right? Yep. It's the difference between hiring a generalist versus hiring a specialist. So also we touch on why DeepSeek matters, why the conversation still should concern you with DeepSeek in China. They've achieved comparable measurements, by the way, in performance using techniques like a mixture of experts and efficient training that dramatically reduced the cost.
Yes. One thing that did come back on that was that the cost was drastically lower, but it lacked on reasoning capability. It was really good at some specific things like coding, for instance. But it lacked on the reasoning capability. So it was spending nearly it was spending more tokens having to do these AI loops for the reasoning. It was taking longer to reason. So when some studies came out and said that it's a 10th or even a 20th of the cost, really it was more like a fifth, or even, a fourth of the cost, because it's using more tokens to get to the level of these other ones. However, what is happening now is that it's causing people and developers to think differently. Wait a second. Can we have smaller models that are just as good? And as we've seen over the last 6 to 8 months, the market has really started to, I wouldn't say flood, but a lot more of these smaller LLMs are coming.
You're saying that we can have smaller and cheaper AI that's actually better than the ChatGPT for my specific business.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to throw something out there and like a guess maybe that the AI is learning. Because if it's getting better and more efficient, the pricing should come down. It should be doing more with less because it's already understood a lot of basic parameters that it needs to make those choices and decisions, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Anthropic.
That sounded really smart.
Yeah. Logical, right? So, but Anthropic is doing this. So they had Opus 4.5, Sonnet 4.5, Opus 4.6 came out, and it was touted to be more intelligent, 1 million token usage, et cetera, et cetera. However, when Sonnet 4.6 came out, people actually preferred Sonnet than Opus 4.6. Excuse me. But what they're seeing is that the cheaper model, which Sonnet is actually about 70% less expensive than Opus 4.6, it actually performed better. So the newer models that are coming out are actually costing less because they're more efficient. So yeah, and it should go that way.
Tell me something. I mean, I see these new models and I see the iterations and I see the 2.4s and the 8 point whatever and stuff. I don't notice with how I use it. I can't definitively say that I'm experiencing a better AI. So are there people out there with different businesses and different needs that are really pushing the limits of testing these things?
Well, I am, for once, our team on the development side of things, because you'll notice the difference in the coding, right? Okay. How many times does it get it right the first time versus how many times does it have to go back and loop? And you have to correct it more and more. So, and we are constantly pushing it, right? We're building lots of platforms for ourselves internally, for clients externally. And the more intelligent the model, we are noticing a drastic difference if you revert, right? And so, there is in there. But however, to your point, for most things, like for instance, conversational, right? Voice agents, AI, intelligent AI assistant chatbots on your website, or something to check your email, make sense of things. You don't need these, giant bloated models. Still, in many cases, GPT 4.0 or 4.1, many will do those things just as well at a fraction of the cost.
So does GPT-4 benefit from the advanced testing of the higher level models?
I don't know. I don't know how that works internally. The way that I think it works like higher. So like for instance, GPT 4.0, all of its training benefited 4.1, et cetera. But I don't think 5.3, for instance, benefits from anything that's being used below it.
But we, the user, benefit.
Yes.
From people like you and your companies that test these things.
Yeah. Even Spotify released that all of their developers, their AI does over 90% of the coding, and their developers don't even code anymore. They just oversee and manage. So it is definitely pushing the frontier of what's possible forward.
So what does this mean for business owners, translating this industry shift into what audiences that can actually care about?
Well, it means that AI tools are going to get cheaper, right?
We like that.
Yep. And so, your $200 a month pro subscription for GPT is probably no longer necessary anymore.
Yeah.
Powerful AI is becoming accessible at every price point. Tools are getting more specialized. So instead of just having, one giant model that's mediocre at everything, we're getting purpose-built tools that are excellent at specific jobs. And the barrier to entry is dropping, right? Small businesses that felt priced out, of AI, let's say 12 months ago, well, they have real options now.
They do.
Yeah. And open source AI also means less vendor lock-in. And, you're not trapped into one ecosystem anymore.
Vendor commitment.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people were afraid of that very thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to commit if I get in there? I think one of the biggest frustrations for me was once I committed to Gemini this and then Chat that, I would ingest all this data and spend all this time ensuring it had everything that it needed. And then when I spend months and months with this one, and all of a sudden it just, like Gemini at some point just stopped working for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to transfer all that data over and transfer all that data over. And that whole process, I think I can understand why business owners would be like, I don't want to get in if I'm going to have to move again, because it's like moving your house,
Yeah.
that eventually they were like, until you guys get it down and I don't have to move 3 times a year in my business model and all the information, I'm just going to wait till somebody gets it better.
Yeah.
What I did learn along the way was by doing that very act, I had to know my business so well,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to be able to do it in a much more concise way.
Yeah. Yep. And, the same thing, really happened to us is that when there was the shift from 4.0 to 5 and 5.1, 5.2, it literally forgot most of who I was. I mean, and that was 2 years of, using 2.5 years. And it just was just like, no, I don't really know how that is. But, and then it would, make up stuff. And I was like, do you even know who I am? And it didn't even get my name right.
But it's like having a relationship. You do. I felt a little pain when it's like, it can't remember me.
You don't remember me?
Yes, I've just spent, I don't know how many hours with you every single week. And now you're telling me you don't know who I am.
Yeah, I was like, you got Alzheimer's already?
We got to come up with a word for that.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's.
AI's-heimers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the gold rush mentality is obviously fading, as you mentioned before, being replaced by practical tools that actually work for real businesses at reasonable price points.
Yeah. Yeah, because the hype is over, which we talked about in last week's episode.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's more like, and we're seeing this, being part of the BBB and the local chambers and providing AI classes. I'm getting this at every single class. People are like, well, what are you going to be talking about? Because they're kind of tired of the whole AI hype conversations. Yeah. They want more like, how can I implement this in my business now? How is this practical? And so that whole
mindset shift.
Yeah, mindset is happening everywhere. Yeah. So let's talk about, let's do a little recap, a little reflection point in our episode so far.
Okay.
Cue the dreamy music. So episode 9, we talked about the real cost of free AI. And that's when you're not paying, you're the product, right? ChatGPT launched ads in your conversations, and they became ad targeting data. Then episode 10, we covered AI agents, the biggest shift since ChatGPT, and the OpenClaw disaster that showed us what happens when you rush in without scarcity. And security. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, that was my dyslexia.
Episode 11, we unpacked why 95% of businesses actually failed at using AI and the mindset shift that separates the other 5% who are actually winning. And then, of course, episode 12, today, the industry is finally building for you after taking everything from you. Smaller, cheaper, more practical tools. The hype is now over and the building phase has begun.
Which is really exciting, because in our industry, we've reached the building phase. I was listening to this. So in January the 12th of 2026, this year, Sam Altman had I don't know what they call it, like a message to his company or whatever. And there was a huge, lots of questions of like, hey, where is the developers? Where's the future for the developers, going here? And so I think that what he said is exactly how I feel, and it's true, is that right now the developers aren't going away. They're shifting. Instead of having to write every single line of code and it taking 6 months,
Mhm.
now they're able to say, hey, I can get this to you in 6 weeks, right? Or less, or quicker. And their expertise are still needed
Mhm.
because you still need to know how to architect, how to, scaffold and database and all that. That stuff doesn't go away. But what's happening is that more business owners are realizing that they can have custom models built for them rather than having to fit themselves into some kind of business. And so the whole building era is happening now.
Yes.
And it's really exciting for small businesses because what might have been unattainable a year, even 6 months ago, and further because you didn't have the budget to hire a team of developers is now within reach.
Well, it sounds like the developers are actually being able to, AI is helping them move faster, quicker, and more efficient.
Yep.
Through their writing.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So the AI tools are getting more practical, but you still
have to show up.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't get a free pass.
Nope. No tool in the world compensates for a foggy brain and a scattered schedule.
Not even a good cup of coffee.
Right? Exactly.
So why should we care?
But should you care?
Should you? We ask this every single time, and you should care.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Well, because it's unequivocally good news for small business owners.
This might be the most optimistic should you care episode that we've done so far, and you guys should be excited because this is a real shift in the industry that we're seeing.
Yep. Have we done a you shouldn't care?
No, I don't think
Maybe
so.
we'll do that next time. No, you shouldn't care. As a matter of fact, turn off this podcast right
Throw
now.
that away.
Well, the price of AI is dropping.
Yeah.
The quality is improving. Specialization in AI is increasing. And so you no longer need to be a tech company to use AI like one for small business owners.
Mm-hmm.
But at this bridge to our deep dive, none of this really matters if you can't focus long enough to implement it. You've got better tools than ever.
Right.
Your AI can handle your phone calls now, or it should be, your scheduling, your email, your follow-up. But what are you doing with that time that you get back? And this is where I've talked about this for over a year now, where I see the industry happening. Once more of this free time is being served back to the business owner. They're finding more free time throughout their day. Well, if you're not able to make the most of that, well, then really, how are you benefiting from it? And there's you're still what I'm seeing, trying to get this out here.
Mhm.
What I'm seeing is that when business owners find more free time, they find other things to fill
it
that
with.
free time.
It's the sand trap problem.
Exactly.
Right. The more you dig, the more sand just piles in. I said this, I can't remember what event I was at where I was talking about how AI kept freeing up time, but I kept filling it with more AI stuff to do.
Yep.
Because I hadn't reached the level of operational efficiency that I feel like I need.
Mhm.
But then I also, like I told you 100 times, I suffer from that, magic squirrel problem with the shiny object syndrome. And I always think the next thing's going to be better when I haven't spent enough time with the version I've got, the iteration I have, making sure that it's as efficient as it can be, and then taking a minute to just enjoy the free 2 hours that I just got back.
Exactly. And so if your answer by what am I going to do with this free time is sitting on a beach and doom scrolling, or context switching between 40 different tabs,
Right.
and being too mentally fried to think straight by 2 p.m. Because you're still filling your plate with other things that aren't really helping you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the tools that you have really can't save yourself then. And this brings us to something that I've been wanting to talk about on the show for a while. And actually, it's been something I've been working on since 2020.
Yeah, for a
long time.
Yeah.
And it's the whole reason that mindset is in our name. After this commercial break. This episode of the AI Convergence podcast is brought to you by Nutrizen. So here's something that most productivity advice gets wrong. They tell you that you have a time problem. And they tell you that you need to manage your time better. Well, the reality is that you don't have a time problem. You have a brain problem.
I only had a brain.
Well, your brain produces different electrical frequencies depending on what state it's in, right? Some of you might know, delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma, and it really depends on what you're doing. If you're in a fight or flight state, you're in a particular brainwave frequency. If you're relaxed or you're sleeping or meditating or you're focusing, it's a different frequency. So it's kind of like when you're driving down the gear, let's say you're in cruising speed in fifth gear, and then you shift down to second, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's hard to do. You could, wreck your transmission. Well, that's the same thing that happens when you're going throughout your day and you're just context switching in a lot of different ways. This is why it's really hard for people that do have ADD or ADHD to come out of a focus state or go into a focus state, because they have to shift their brain waves into a dominant state that allows for that to happen. And so Nutrizen uses IsoSync brainwave frequency technology. It's neuroscience backed. There's a ton of studies on it done in the National Institute of Health.org. And these are audio sessions that guide your brain into the exact state you need. For instance, gamma frequencies for razor sharp focus during deep work, alpha for creative problem solving and strategic thinking, and theta for winding down when your brain won't shut off at the end of the day. And the fringe benefits to this are also ways to help with sleep, insomnia, challenges with insomnia, chronic anxiety, PTSD, etc. And this is something I'm very passionate about. And I'm a certified NLP practitioner, brainwave entrainment practitioner, and sound frequency therapist. And so that's why I launched Nutrizen. And these aren't meditation apps or white noise or brown noise or pink noise or solfeggio frequencies or anything like that. This is targeted brainwave entrainment. Binaural beats is old technology. Isochronic wave tones are new technology. And it's the same science it's used by elite performers, military operators, and peak performance researchers. And it works in minutes, not in months.
The deep dive, optimize your brain to match your tools. I like that, because, we get all these new tools, but have we optimized our brain to use them? Like, how does my brain change when I start using them? And have I taken time to consider what that means in terms of my experience with it?
Yeah. Well, we've been talking about AI tools all the time. It's an AI convergence podcast. What can they do, what they can cost, how to implement them, how to avoid getting burned by them, etc. But there's something that nobody in the AI conversion or in the AI conversation is talking about. And that is that you can have the most powerful tools on the planet and still get nothing done if your brain doesn't function at the level that the work demands.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, imagine how frustrating this is. And this isn't woo-woo. This isn't meditation advice. This is real neuroscience, proven brainwave neuroscience. And it's the most practical thing that I'm probably going to share with everybody this month. So let's talk about the focus crisis.
All right.
So the average knowledge worker gets interrupted every 3 minutes and 5 seconds. And it takes 23 minutes to regain full focus after interruption.
This must feed into our ADHD society. Mm-hmm. Those things that we're now allowing the apps we use to help us develop more interruptions.
Yes. Well, what out there requires us to focus for more than 5 seconds? Very little, right? And so
maybe that's why I like cooking and doing the dishes,
because
I'm in that zone. It's very relaxing for me, and I know a lot of people don't like to do the dishes, but I just feel relaxed. It's like something in my brain just goes.
No, I remember somebody actually a while ago saying, when I do dishes, it's like meditation. Mm-hmm. And there's actually science behind that, because when you're doing something repetitive, right, mm-hmm. that it activates or takes a certain part of your brain to do that. Mm-hmm. And so the other part of your brain, mm-hmm. which is the default mode network, is allowed to kind of shut down mm-hmm. a little bit. And that allows you to be able to kind of think about things, right? So it's kind of, open your mind, calm a little bit. So it is kind of like a meditation. Maybe we should, share this with my wife.
Sorry, Jess.
I'm going to get a slap. But going back to the stats. So like employees report getting only 10.6 hours of focused work per week.
Ouch.
46% less than the 19.6 hours that they say they need. And anybody who suffers from focus or clinically diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, you know what this is about. Business owners, really, they're worse. 63% work 50 plus hours per week, but most of those hours are spent in reactive mode. Email, Slack, phone calls, and just putting out fires, right? It's the common joke among entrepreneurs. I don't get to work on my business. I have to work in it.
Yeah,
right?
68% of their time
68%.
spent on admin.
Yep.
Which if they're doing 68% on admin and 63% of that is spent in reactive mode, that's just not efficient. I can't, and it's not sustainable, I don't think, for in the long run, for your business or the individual.
Well, here's what happened. So the Gloria Mark at UC Irvine did a study and found that people compensate for interruptions by working faster. But what that does is it increases stress, it boosts your cortisol levels, and it produces lower quality work because then you're in really high beta brainwave, which is around the 15 to 23 hertz area actually is when more cortisol is created in your body and it causes frustration and irritability. And so what happens is you're not really getting any more done. You're just getting more tired.
You're not overworked. You're under focused. There's a massive difference and it's costing you more than you realize. That's when I reach what I call the Hulk smash stage.
Yeah. You just want to smash everything?
I do.
Yeah.
I get moments of intense rage.
Yeah.
About not being able to complete something. And I've noticed it recently that it just pops in and I call them my Hulk smash because I just want to throw something across the room. I
know the pain. Well, think about it this way. How many times have you, or how many listening or watching, how you work at a computer? You're not doing a physical job, but yet when you come home, you are still exhausted, right?
Right.
It's because you're still using your body is creating ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Your mitochondria is firing off. You're creating electrical energy based on all of the things you're trying to focus on. You're constantly shifting between different brainwave states. You're shifting your body into the sympathetic mode, which is fight or flight, and not the rest or digest mode. And so you're really just exhausting yourself and as I say, burning the candle on both ends.
And this hits so close to home for me because I feel like I'm busy all day. And then I look back and realize that I didn't actually accomplish all of the things that I set out to do because I set out and I accomplished all the distractions.
Yeah.
I got those done, but they don't feel good.
Yeah.
At least not mentally,
Well, and the problem is that all of the personal development or optimization advice out there is that they say that you have a discipline problem. And
now you sound like my mom.
Right. Well, you just have to work harder. You have to think harder, discipline. You got to have the right Post-it notes.
You're not focused.
All this other stuff. And that's not it. It's a brain state problem. And I don't really like to use the problem. It's a brain state lack of awareness, right? It's, you're shifting through 6 gears and no one told you how to downshift or how to cross shift or how to clutch in properly. You
like a sports car.
Yeah. First car I drove was a stick shift. That's what I learned on. So, any of you millennials out here that don't know what that is, sorry, I apologize. Not really. But basically my passion has been able to make this accessible to people to understand without any jargon. And just to be able to explain it like you'd explain it to a friend over coffee. And so I'm going to attempt that here.
Okay.
So your brain produces electrical frequencies that neuroscientists measure in hertz, right? And those of you who have been on YouTube and you use, binaural beats or whatever, right? And it does help. Binaural beats are not ineffective. They're just not as effective, right? It's older technology. But these different frequencies correspond to different states of consciousness and performance. As a matter of fact, there's 48 different frequency that you can tune into. I like to say tune
Oh.
into, like the old radios back. You remember those, back and forth. I remember them too.
The 48 match my 48 personalities, and one of them is telling you. Thanks.
I love it. Well, you can think of it, like shifting gears in the car. You wouldn't try, 80 miles an hour in first gear. So here, sticking with the
You
car,
can with a Ferrari.
Well, sure, yeah. Although I've never driven a Ferrari. One day. But here are the 4 gears that matter in your brain. You have gamma. So this is the focus gear.
Mhm.
And I'm really making it super basic. There's so many different nuances here. But this is your peak cognitive processing state. And they call it the binding state, right? So if you've ever, tried to, maybe someone knocked something off the table and then you were able to catch it and everything kind of went in slow-mo, you immediately shifted into gamma, right? You're able to see and process everything that's happening all at the same time. Then we have beta. So that's between 13 and 40 hertz, and gamma is 40 plus, up to 120, what's been documented. And this is kind of like your working gear, right? Normal waking consciousness. After you wake up in the morning, about 20-minute window, you go from alpha into beta. And beta is where you're locked into most of the day until you get ready to go to sleep. This is where most of your day is spent. It's not bad, but it's not where the best work happens. Then we have alpha, and that's from 8 to 13 hertz. And this is the creative gear. It's called relaxed alertness. And this is where most meditation, guided meditations will take you into alpha. So you feel relaxed,
Nice.
but you're still able to think about things, right? You still feel like you're here,
Mhm.
quote unquote.
Mhm.
And so this helps you to connect the dots from ideas, come up with new ideas. It's whenever you're in the shower, right? And you come up with a great idea, you're like, oh, your light bulb moment. That's because with the water hitting you and being in that state allowed you to shift into the alpha state.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And theta is 4 through 8 hertz. And this is the recovery gear. This is deep relaxation. It's the edge of sleep. It's where we have our dream sleep. And your brain starts to consolidate your learning, process emotions, and it recharges. And business owners who skip this gear burn out, period, because the lowest gear is delta. And that's from 0.5 up to 4 hertz. And delta, it's called dreamless sleep. And we need that when we go into sleep. So if you suffer from brain fog or insomnia, chances are you feel like you need a lot of coffee. You're walking around with brain fog in a dazed state. And that's because in delta, the body flushes all of its systems, the lymphs, the connections between the neural synaptic connections and all of that stuff. And we need about 2 to 2.5 hours of delta sleep every single night.
Is that where the parts of your body shut off and you can end up with what's that paralyzed state that you can go into?
Hypnagogia.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, hypnagogia is when you're falling into
right.
sleep. But yeah, you're talking about like you're shifting between states and you wake up, but your body is kind of paralyzed.
I wake up in there all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot. Well, we could have a whole nother podcast on this, but sorry.
We digress.
We digress. But so it's really important to know what these are and maybe not become an expert, but just know how to shift those gears. And Nutrizen with the frequencies allows you to shift in between these states within 60 to 90 seconds, very, very quickly. So overall, your brain has gears. Most business owners are stuck in second gear all day, wondering why they can't go faster, or why they're completely exhausted at the end of the day. And you don't need more horsepower. You just need to know how to shift. So we're going to keep this tight, and then we're going to wrap it up here. Because while this is a little bit longer of an episode, I think it's very important because, again, we can have all the AI tools in the world. We can implement them into our business. But if we're still not taking care of ourselves personally, internally, we're still going to run into the same
problems.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same challenges.
Yeah.
So the brainwave entrainment is a process of using external stimuli, using what's called the FFR, the frequency following response. This can be done through sound, light, or vibration, and it helps guide your brain into a specific frequency state. And once you've created this dominant frequency in your brain, it affects the whole rest of your physiology and your biology.
And you say entrainment, not like entertainment. What's entrainment specifically?
Entrainment. So have you ever been around where there's music playing in the background and you find yourself humming to the music?
Of course.
Or tapping?
Yeah.
Well, that's entrainment,
Okay.
right? So when you realize it's when you're entraining into something,
Mm-hmm.
or when you're dancing intentionally, right? You enter the dance floor and you want to entrain yourself to the beat,
Okay.
right? Well, so the frequency following response is a phenomenon where our brain is constantly looking and searching for different types of frequencies in the environment that it recognizes, right? Which is why the candle that's flickering in the background stimulates calm and relaxation. And so you can have like music in the background helping you relax. Or if you go into a busy city and you're not ready for it and you have the honking horns and the people yelling and all the sound, you could start to feel anxiety because
I wonder if that's
your
why
brainwaves
I'm
shift.
always putting on that music. I'm always putting on some form of flow
Yep.
with a rhythm and a pace. No words. I prefer not to have like sing-song stuff. Because I find that my body relaxes and I can get into the flow.
Yeah, exactly. And the flow is a whole nother podcast. That frequency is actually 9.8 hertz. So the most common method is audio-based binaural beats, isochronic tones, or monaural beats delivered through headphones. But if you can just get yourself into nature, we are trained to entrain into our surroundings.
Yes.
So we go out, we hear the wind blowing, the water flowing, the birds chirping, etc. That's why we feel calmer when we're there.
At the spa.
Yeah, we're not talking about instant enlightenment here. That's not what I'm talking about. This is a targeted state shifting process. And so if you put on a 40 hertz gamma track before a deep work block, within minutes, your brain starts matching that frequency. And you're not meditating, you're tuning your brain, for the track. I felt that one coming up.
So you wouldn't just walk into the gym and randomly start grabbing weights. You'd actually have to plan for the training part, is what you're saying.
Exactly. So you know what you're doing. And then you shift into that. It's just like you got to warm up, right?
Can you feel it?
Feel in what way?
When you're in those gamma, theta, beta, how aware are we that we're there?
So there's a thing called meta awareness. The more you practice it, you will be able to tell the difference.
Oh, that's cool.
So the more you become aware of something, right? You can spot it better in the crowd, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you can.
It's awesome. Is there a protocol that we should be trying out?
Yeah. So pick your one thing. So before you start, identify the single most important task for the day.
Okay.
Not your to-do list. It's the one thing that moves your business forward. Then block 90 minutes. Okay. I wouldn't use any frequency unless you're trying to sleep, or just relax to close out the day more than 90 minutes. Because there is this thing called shifting anxiety, where you get into it too long.
You can develop an anxiety, but when you shift
out of it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so that's what happens with a lot of people who have ADD or ADHD. They're in the zone and then they get disrupted and then they're just like, and they become, I used to suffer from that all the time, really upset, like irritable, that kind of a thing. So no more than 90 minutes. That's a sweet spot. Eliminate your inputs. So put your phone on silent, close Slack, close every tab, only keep open on your screen what you need. This isn't optional. Every notification resets your 23-minute refocus clock.
When you say here, cue your brain, what does that mean?
So you want to put on gamma frequency. So cue means you start listening to the frequency. So your brain is going to start, okay, this is the dominant frequency.
Like queuing up a soundtrack, like queuing up a thing, right?
Yep, exactly. Okay. That's exactly what it is.
Oh.
And so within 5 minutes to 10 minutes, actually less than that, with isochronic tones, it's usually between 60 seconds to 120 seconds. Your brain starts synchronizing and the focus begins to deepen. And, then you get into work. And the great thing about this is the more you do it, the more you'll just snap right into focus.
Oh, cool.
Right? It's really cool. I actually trained myself out of ADD because I used to have challenges with ADD. And now through NLP triggers and using frequencies, I was able to train my brain to focus to the point to where I no longer needed to use frequencies anymore, because we all have plastic. Our brains are plastic, and we can retrain it. So you work your block for 90 minutes. You don't do anything but that one thing, and then you recover. So after the block, you need to give yourself some time. So it would be best to move into an alpha frequency for 10 to 15 minutes, and you let your brain kind of downshift.
So you said plastic. Are you meaning plasticity?
Plasticity, yep.
That's the flexibility of the brain to come in and out of those frequencies and
to
recognize
learn
them?
new things.
To learn new things.
Yep. To operate
develop
in different ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can train your brain to operate a different way than it does now. If the way that it's currently operating doesn't support you or might cause challenges, you can retrain your brain.
Doesn't support you or may cause challenges. That's my little disclaimer. When you meet me, may cause problems.
Oh man. But so here's another benefit to this.
Yeah.
Is that the more that you do that, the more your reward system, you feel better.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because now you're like, I did it.
Right.
The 90 minutes, I got this done. I felt great. And so now you've rewarded yourself.
Well, that must bring the cortisol down.
Yes.
Okay.
You feel a lot better.
Okay.
Exactly. So, one focused 90-minute session will produce more meaningful output than any entire scattered 8-hour day. It's not motivational fluff. It's neuroscience. And it's what I base my whole book that I published in 2021 off of: The Art of Kicking Ass and Taking Names, the ultimate guide for mastering your day without burning out. And it's how I was able to then, and still do today, be able to do more than most people can do, in a week, in a day, because I use these techniques regularly.
I want to try this, but I kind of feel intimidated by it.
In what way?
Oh, I don't know. Being able to say that I can take a 90-minute block of time, turn everything off, and focus on that feels antipathy feels no. So it feels like it's the opposite of being productive.
Antithesis.
Yeah, the antithesis. Thank you. It feels like it's the opposite of being productive, but you're suggesting that by doing it, eventually you will get more productive.
Yeah. Well, so think about it this way. How many times do we sit down and we try and get one thing done because it's very important?
Yeah.
But it doesn't get done.
Right.
Or we get
and
halfway
then we're just more
through
frustrated.
Right. And then you're Hulk smashing at the end of the day. Right.
Sure.
So if you were able to have this 90-minute block to focus on that without any distractions, and you enter a flow state, which is it feels really good to be in. Well, then you get your stuff done when you actually ended up getting more done than you did trying to push 12 things forward at the same
Moving
time.
that needle, as we say.
Exactly. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So tell us how it goes. Try it yourself. Leave comments, feedback. Because here's the thing. We've spent all month talking about all of the AI tools that you can use, shouldn't use, might think about using, etc. But saved time is worthless if you waste it being scattered, right?
Or just busy.
More
busy. You add more busy.
You
more
fill it,
sand.
with more stuff in your sandbox.
Yep.
And so this is really how you make time count. All right. So let's go ahead and bring
Close
this
it
one
down.
home.
Shall we bring it home? Let's land the plane.
Yeah, let's land the plane.
Okay.
Because it's a little longer than normal. Yeah.
Please put your trays in the upright position.
And stop drinking your alcohol. All right. So the hype is dying. The best thing that could happen to your business owners is that the hype is dying. The gold rush is starting to come to an end.
Yeah.
And the people who actually know how to build things, those are the ones that are winning and going to win. And that is and can be you. And so now you've heard about the cost of free AI, the reality of AI agents, why most businesses fail at AI, where the industry is actually heading. And you're more informed now than 95% of business owners out there. Because, these are the things that we're talking about. We're talking about what we feel, again, should you matter. We're cutting through the fluff and the BS to only serve you the stuff that's actually going to really benefit you.
And something about the technical shift towards smaller, more specialized models and why this genuinely is exciting for the kind of work that Vox AI does. And, maybe the future isn't one where giant AIs are taking over and doing everything. It's actually sort of more purpose-built AI infrastructure and environment that we're experiencing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so, maybe practicing this 90, minute protocol, has really genuinely, or hopefully it has genuinely resonated with a lot of you people, and give it a try. It really, if you're like me and you know that you're capable of more, but you can't seem to get out of your own way, then you might want to give this a try. It's done wonders for me and many people that I've shared it with and have used it. And it's 90 minutes. What do you have to lose?
Right.
Yeah. All right. So that wraps up our first month of season 2. It's 4 episodes, 4 perspectives on where AI is right now, what it means for people like us and you.
Mm-hmm.
And, so if you're a business owner, founder, operator, and you don't have time for the hype, but you can't afford to ignore what's happening, well, I hope this helped you.
Yeah, and if you've got value from anything that we've talked about this past month, right? The best thing you can do, of course, is share the show with anybody that you love, care about, and want to share about AI. But you can also subscribe wherever you listen, any of the podcasts.
You could.
Any Spotify, whatever.
Hopefully you will.
Hopefully you will. And if you want to get your brain optimized, if you want to get it dialed in, please check out NutraZen. NutraZen. NutroZen. NutraZen. It's linked in the show notes below. And until next Tuesday, please stay focused and stay building and stay converging and stay conversing.
Yeah, NutraZen, you know where I got it from? It's digital nootropics.
Oh.
Yep.
Nice.
Neutro, like nootropics.
Yeah.
Zen. Yeah,
nice.
That's where it came from. Sorry.
Well,
anyway.
I feel relaxed. I don't know about you.
All right. See you next time.
Thanks, guys.